In every piece of Bach's music, I do a ton of finger substitutions. They allow me to sustain the length of a note while still preparing the hand for what's to come. As well, they promote constant movement of the hand. That alto, she is a brave little gal in this piece. I have to say, look at her coming in on the last 16th note of the bar. So easy to cheat and come off early. Find the fingering that allows you to hold notes for their full value. Well, hi there. Welcome back to my practice room. It's me, Penny. And in this video, we're looking at one of the fugues from Volume 2 of the Well-Tempered Clavier by J.S. Bach. And I've got my nice Urtext edition by Henle. Very good edition. I highly recommend it. And what are we doing in this video? Well, I'm going to dish out for you, plain and simple, my fingering for the very popular and very difficult fugue number 16 in G minor. This is a four-voiced fugue. You can see here I've got a lot of markings in the page, but not many finger numbers, and that is because I don't need them marked in. They just kind of come intuitively to me, but I want to show them to you. Okay, so we're zoomed up nice and close to the fingering here that I've marked in my copy. The fingering for the left hand I've put in blue, navy blue, below the staff, and then the right hand fingering, it's in black, these numbers up here. Left hand is in blue. So right hand in black, left hand in blue, and in these thicker blue brackets here, I've marked in the subject entries. I wanted to be able to show this fingering very clearly up close, nice and bright, and it is very hard to do because the notes are small and there's a lot of numbers. And I'm not going to spoon feed everything to you because the main thing is you can see the numbers, so you can try it out for yourself. Of course, fingering is very personal. This is just my fingering. I don't expect this to work for you, but some of it may be helpful. The one thing that is essential to point out, and it happens right here in the beginning, this is something I do a lot, all the time in Bach's music, and that is finger substitutions. You can see I'm playing 2 on this first note, substituting to 1. The little diagonal slash indicates that I'm substituting a finger. Here's another one, 2 to 1, 2 to 1, 2 to 1. Here's 2 to 3. That happens a lot. Here again in the right hand, 2 to 3, 2 to 3. Through the whole piece, I do a ton. In every piece of Bach's music, I do a ton of finger substitutions. And so try those out. I do them because they allow me to sustain the length of a note while still preparing the hand for what's to come. As well, they promote constant movement of the hand, and that helps to keep us, supple and loose and relaxed and everything flowing nicely. The other thing that I want to point out in places like here, this is measure 4, we're still in the subject. These repeated notes, and we get those a lot, again over in the right hand here, measure 8. By and large, when I play those repeated notes, I change my fingering. So here for the left hand in measure 4, each of those C's, I've got it, all of them have a different finger, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, and then I've got a little substitution here. Do I micromanage my fingerings? Yes. Is it for a reason? Yes. Is that reason to create in sound what I hear in my mind and hopefully move the listener? Yes. So, micromanaging is a good thing if it's serving the purpose of communicating the ideal. What was it? Theodore Leschetizky that used to say, be ideal at the piano, right? So that is the goal, and finger substitutions help. I do it again here in the right hand, as I said, measure 8, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Right hand has it again, measure 12. I don't change them always as much each time, but in general, I do have what is the slogan? Fresh fingers. So this is the first page, which takes us to measure 24 down here. In addition to those fingerings, let's just look at, before we go to the next page, some of these brackets here that indicate the entries of the subject. So the first entry occurs in the tenor. That's here, beginning. It's the first thing we hear. And the next one occurs in the alto, measure 5, followed by the soprano, measure 9. Then we get a little bit of a sequential moment here. We actually had a little sequential moment in the back end of measure, in the back end of measure 5 through measure 7, and then another sequential moment here, measure 9 through measure 12-ish. I've got those sequential spots marked off. I've written the word sequential and also in pencil a bracket to indicate the start and the end of those. So we've had 3 entries so far. The next one is in the bass. This is measure 13 here, and I'll get to those red hearts in just a moment. There's another sequential moment here. I think this subject could be said to be rather sequential. That little passage continues through the end of 15. And then we get another entry in the, the tenor at measure 20, and that's it for this page. All in all, this fugue has, I counted, you correct me if I'm wrong, leave me a note in the comments. I counted 16 entries of the subject of this opening here. Bum 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 bum. That business there. And they're not all exactly intact, but I count them even if they are, because it's a reminder to me of the subject. Another thing, I'm going to include a few little technical things along the way, because most of us play this piece at a bit of a clip, considering that the prelude that precedes it is, as I recall, yes, I had to check here, is marked largo. So it's nice to have this fugue be a release to that that slow prelude. But you see here in a lot of these quarter notes, like in the beginning, measure 2, measure 3, then measure 6, the right hand, you see these little horizontal arrows. There's some more here, measure 10, measure 11. I think I put them all in. I might have missed a few. But those, I find anyway, when playing this piece, I need to be sure that I don't get off those notes too soon. You want to listen for those. Those are fairly long notes in the scheme of this piece, which is so loaded with short notes, i.e. 16th notes. So really hear your long notes, give them their full value. Now, these little heart moments here, this is something I do a lot of. I've been doing it now for a few years. And in this fugue, it usually corresponds to the alto voice. I do love an inner voice, of course. But these are just little places. I've got a red heart. Sometimes I put a happy face like I do here. Sometimes it's just the heart by itself. This is not like a really accurate scale of how important these passages are. Sometimes I even put Mr. B, like here, with an exclamation point at the end of measure 13. Here's another one at the bar line between measure 14 and 15, another one at the beginning of 18. These little heart moments, and I colored them red just for you, these are places that I find, my ears find them juicy. When I'm playing this music at a clip, I almost wouldn't even know that those passages are there. But I put these hearts in after playing this piece many times very slowly. And when you do that, and when you take each of these 4 voices apart, sing them, get to know them, you'll find juicy little spots along the way. And what moves me might not move you, and vice versa. But when you find something that is a shock to the ear or a bit of a spice, like a dissonance, I think that was like this one back on the first page here at the end of 13. This is the heart moment in the fugue at the end of measure 13. Also at the end of 14, the alto. Right, we had this A that's tied over into measure 14 and pitted against that is a B flat, right? That's a clash, right? And there's a lot of these in the alto that create that clash. And that alto, she is a brave little gal in this piece. I have to say, look at her coming in on the last 16th note of the bar in those three places, end of 13, end of 14, end of 17. She's a brave little gal. I love this alto part. The bass does it as well later on. There's some more alto coming up on the second page here. Let's get into this second page here. We're carrying on with measure 25. This is page 2 with the fingering there. We've got some more finger substitutions there in the right hand. A few in the left hand. These lower brackets here, like at the end of 27 into 28, whenever you see one of those, that's just a passage that to me sounds like a little bit of a cadential arrival, like a comma in a essay or a period, a moment of rest kind of thing. Then carrying on with our entries of the subject, there's an alto entry here at 28. That's this blue bracket here, which leads us into another little sequential passage, 28, 9, and 30. Carrying on here, we've got another entry at 32. This one is in the soprano. And I love the alto, what she's doing here. While the subject is in the soprano. And the bass is in running 16ths, as you can see. There's a little sequence, as we said, 32, 33, 34. Some of these, if you see like some numbers scratched out, that is indeed what they are. They're numbers that were put in by, I think this edition was, fingering is by Andras Schiff, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and there's a lot of his fingering that I really don't care for, so I just scratch it out. Or sometimes it's the same fingering, actually, that I use, but I like my numbers on the outside of the staff as opposed to inside. So, and I wanted viewing consistency for you here. Carrying on then, we got a bass entry in 36, here it is, bringing us another little sequential moment. I have a little heart for another juicy moment there. C against a B flat. Yeah, let's do the alto. This is the end of measure 36. Also the end of 37. Yeah, it's that alto coming in on the end of the bar, on the last 16th of the bar. I love that. Da dee da 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 dum, da 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 dum. I love it. Again, I got these horizontal arrows on my quarter notes here as a reminder to give those notes their full value. There's a lot of places in this fugue where, at least for me, I have to take a note that's in the treble clef, perhaps with the left hand, or vice versa, or some other places like here. This is a tricky spot. The very beginning of measure 39. Now, I try to indicate it in pencil. It's so hard to show these things, and it's even some of this fingering. I can't guarantee that every single finger number here is what I do all the time, because it's very hard to write this music, or write these numbers. With your hand, it's like as I'm writing it, I'm writing these numbers, but my hands are like fingering it, and it's just like, it's very hard to capture fingering. I wish there was a computer that could do that. But this spot at the downbeat of 39, the G in the alto here. So this G, I grab first of all with the thumb of my right hand. This is finger number 1 right here in the right hand. And then I keep that note down with my right hand, and I grab it with my left hand thumb. This is here. This one is for that same note, the G. This is so hard to notate. I can't tell you. It's like pulling out my hair, just trying to get these numbers. But then, so the thumb is on the G. This is happening in the blink of an eye too, right? It's crazy. So that's what this 1 is for, the G. But meanwhile, we got this D tied over, and then the B flat underneath it in the bass. So that's what this here, if we back up to the last beat of 38, the D in the left hand on the last beat, I'm playing with finger 2, I'm substituting to 1, and I'm leaving my thumb on there through the tie. I play the F with my 5th finger, and this 2 here, with the circle around it, that's coming after the second slash. It's another finger substitution, except that it's happening later, and that's why I put the arrow. As I say, for myself, I don't need this written in, and in fact, I find it a hindrance. I almost am paralyzed. I can't play when all these numbers are there. So it's just like very, very hard to capture this. And this arrow, I hope is clear to you what it's trying to show. So the 2 then is on the D, and that's happening right at the bar line there. So 2 in the left takes to the D as the thumb of the left grabs the G that the right hand thumb let go of. And we got finger 4 of the left hand on the B flat. As again here, it was another one of these arrows. Let's call it a delayed finger substitution, right? So the slash indicates the substitution to substituting to 1 here in the left hand, end of 39. But that 1 it's on a tied note. I think that's usually the case here with these arrows. They fall on tied notes. So it just means that substitution is happening later. But I didn't want to mark it later because that might confuse things. So just, take it as you will. Hopefully it's helpful. Then we got, look at all my happy faces here for the soprano at measure 40, 41, and 42. Dum bum ba da da dum bum, and then we get it again in 41. Dum bum ba da da dum bum, and then again in the next bar. Bum bum ba da da dum bum. I don't have perfect pitch, so I'm not singing the right notes, but it's that motive that we hear 3 times, and it's ascending. It's getting higher. We're on the F, then we're on the G, then we're on the A flat. So it's very exciting. And then the little alto, da-dee-da-dum-bum, da-dee-da-dum-bum, da-da-da-dum, while the bass is rolling along with nonstop 16ths. So that is page 2. Let's get, page 2 takes us to measure 42. Let me switch over to page 3 here. I'm on my dining room table. What was it? I love the quote from Erwin Bodke, his book on Bach's music, and he says, he refers to the popular definition of a fugue as being a serious discussion of a serious matter amongst serious people. And if ever there was a serious conversation happening of a serious matter, it's this fugue, right? And we're in G minor. So, a serious key. This is serious stuff, man. But you got to have some fun with it, too, because it's pretty darn intense. So here we are with fingering on the 3rd page of my Henley edition. This is beginning at measure 43. So some more substitutions. Fingering wise, things are a little sparse here at the top of the page. That's a nice break, right? Picking off with the entrances of the subject. This is something that I found interesting in this fugue, and it happens, I think this is the first time it happens in this fugue. Yes. Here we're at measure middle of 45, and we get two simultaneous statements of the subject, one in the alto, one in the tenor, and they're both in major. So you want to listen for that too. I got those horizontal arrows again to show as a reminder to lengthen and to listen for the entire duration. That is half the battle in playing Bach's music, or at least a third of the battle, right? Is not cheating these notes. That's what sets really clear playing apart from muddy playing. It's just, you gotta, if the note has if it's a quarter note, you gotta stay on it. If it's a half note with a tie on it, don't cheat. Like here with this, there's a lot of ties in this fugue in particular, in all the voices too, but lots of ties in general, especially in the middle voices when you get a tie. Don't cheat. It's so easy to cheat and come off early and think, oh, I'll just put a dash of pedal down and that'll cover things up. It just makes things worse. So put in the time to find the fingering that allows you to hold notes for their full value. Here in 46, I had to pencil in some kind of circular brackets just so it would be hopefully ultra clear to you as to which hand is taking the notes. You know, this note is indicated in the bass clef. Stem is going up though, so, but just, you know, I got a bracket around that, so you know I'm taking that with the right hand. But then the B flat, still in the bass clef with the stem up, that one I'm grabbing with the left, grabbing this G with the left, grabbing the C here with my right, grabbing the A. This is all in the tenor voice, right? Like right, left, left, right, left, right. All of this. There's a lot of changing of the hands. Both hands are sharing some of the work to play these inner voices. And this is so difficult to indicate on the page. And let's see here, we're at 49, middle of the page. There's another little sequential moment there. I got two hearts here. This is at the bar line between 49 and 50, and then 50 and 51 in that bar line too. Again, it's the alto, and she's coming in on the back end, the very last minute of the bar, on the last 16th of the bar. Then we've got in 51, we have a subject entry in the soprano. That's here. I've indicated it at the beginning of the bar because we got the quarter rest there as we do in the original. Not all of them have the rest. This one here, this entry in the alto at 51, that one is not preceded by a rest, but it's still following the shape of the pattern, so it is a subject statement. I got a little heart for my bass here. I love these tied notes on the last 16th of the bar. They're just so delicious and expressive. There's another one in the bass at the very end of 52. I have some personal markings for myself, like assertive bass here at the bar line between 53, 54. More hearts, happy faces, and Mr. B with 2 exclamation points. I just found this bass and tenor part here, this is in the back end of measure 54, to be rather disjunct and lumpy and just, you know, like gnarly kind of, and I mean that in the best way. I love it. And then the thorny left hand, measure 54. Moving right along, we've got more substitutions. As always in Bach, at least for me. Fingering is such a personal thing. I have to say, I've said it before and I will say it till the day I die. Don't use this fingering verbatim. In fact, it took me some courage to work up the guts to share this stuff, because I really don't believe in copying someone's fingering. I really don't. Everyone's hand shape is different. But in this day and age, we're learning from each other electronically, thanks to the internet and the magic of YouTube. And if some of my ideas can help someone, then hey, I'm here for it. So that's what we're trying to do here. But, take this with a grain of salt. This fingering fits my hand. What is that song that Jewel sang in the 90s? My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. I always think of that. My hands are not big. So if you have thick, short, kind of chunky fingers, this fingering might work for you. In the middle of 57 here, I've got I've marked the chromaticism between the tenor and the soprano. Where is it here? So this, just backing up to 56, the last quarter note there of 56. The right hand has got the C, then it goes down to B natural in 57, down to B flat, down to A natural in 58, down to A flat, down to G in 59. That's chromatic descent. And coupled alongside that, very nicely, we got in the tenor, same idea. D in 57, going down to D flat, going down to C in 58, to C flat in 58. Sorry, was I a bar off? You get where I am here. 56 to 58, right? This chromaticism, like a little duet. So you can isolate that, play that, listen for it if you like. I love to listen for chromaticism in Bach's music. This is quite a chromatic piece. I did calculate the level of chromatic saturation. This piece has 12 out of 12 chromatic saturation. So every single note of the chromatic scale, all 12 pitches are present. And it's no surprise here in these 4-page fugues, right? This piece is so difficult. Here we are at the bottom of page 3. This is measure 59. And again, we have two entries of the subject simultaneously. This one in the tenor and one in the bass. And they're both in major, right? And they're creating these nice thirds through 59, 60, and 61. So that's something you can listen for and bring out. We got double thirds in the right hand, 59, 60, 61. These double thirds are quite difficult. This fingering works well for me. Give it a try. Maybe it'll help you. If not, then tinker with it. The fingering alone is not enough to play the piece well. One must be rotating the wrist and moving the arm. For me personally, I move my upper body a lot as well. And I had someone comment about, you shouldn't be moving around and wobbling your arms all crazy like. Well, thank you for the feedback, but while it might look wobbly to some, my movements at the piano of my arm and my torso and everything else that's moving and grooving is really just an extension of what my fingers and wrists are doing in their movements. So it's really like playing piano is very much like a sport. It's a full body event. It's not just for the fingers. We're on the last page, believe it or not, of this 4-page, 4-voiced fugue. And this is measure 62, taking us to the last bar, measure 84. So those double thirds that we had are continuing here in the left hand, as well through 62, 63, 64, and then this nasty passage here at 65. This is very difficult. I hope you can read my numbers. Remember, the blue is for the left hand, the black is for the right hand. These here as well, these double thirds in the right hand at 64. I try to play those. You see, I've written the word tops. I write that often in my pieces. I get a lot of that idea in terms of listening to the sound from my teacher, Constance Keene, who I studied with at Manhattan School of Music. And that just means that I'm trying to bring out the top voice. I'm trying to bring out this soprano. So this the highest voice here. In other words, these numbers on, on the top. Just to give it a little bit more brilliance of sound. That's what I'm personally trying to do there. We've got a big dominant arrival here in the bar line between 66 and 67. 67 arrives in D. That's the dominant of our home key, G. There's an entry here in the tenor at 67. Now, I don't have official fugue terminology on hand. I just call it incomplete because somewhere along the line a teacher used that word, and I thought, hey, that makes sense. So like this tenor here, it starts as it should, and then it kind of peters out and doesn't finish the subject as we know it. I have written here in the bass, subject not shy. So, I am trying to bring that one out there. And there's plenty of finger substitutions happening. We have at 69 a statement of the subject in our soprano. That one begins with the quarter rest, as the original did. I like what the tenor is doing here. I've got more of those horizontal arrows to remind myself to voice those notes, to give them their full value, not be skimpy with them. Much of this right hand here, all of this right hand in 72 is chordal. Actually, through 73, 7, and 74, those three bars, 72 to 74, they're all blocked chords there. 72 in the right hand, and then both hands, 73 and 74. Bringing us to a very firm arrival in the tonic key of G minor at 75. Much sequential material along the way. This fugue is really loaded. It's like a baked potato. The loaded baked potato. This is a loaded fugue when it comes to sequential material. If I were doing one of my sequence extension things, I'd have lots to pick from here. Actually, someone requested that. I have it on my list. So many things on my list. I can't tell you. The ideas come to me. I feel like a baseball catcher getting balls thrown at them. I'm just trying to catch the ideas before they die. Here's we got another little heart there in the alto for some chromatic movement there. The A to A flat to G. I always find that chromaticism in Bach's music lends great expressive value, and you want to have high points and low points in the music that you play, places where there's tension and unrest, so that we can enjoy the resolution that follows. It's very satisfying to resolve, provided you've been somewhere, right? I've had some drama along the way. We want drama in this music. It makes it very exciting to hear all these details. Another big tonic arrival in 78. And we're winding down here. No more statements of the subject. I didn't mark this one in here. It's not really a subject statement. It's kind of reminiscent of one here. I marked altered in the bass at measure 80. Bum, bum, da-da-da-dum, bum, da-da-da-dum, bum, bum. I should have put a bracket there. Anyhow, imaginary bracket going in for you right now. And here I've got a giant circle around this spot at 82. I wrote in syncopated soprano. Our soprano, she's tied over from 81. So 1, 2, 3, bum, 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 bum. All of these eighth notes, G, C, B flat, A, G, they're all syncopated. Right? It's just very jazzy here, and the rest of the parts are in time. So that is something to bring out. I've been sort of swinging some of Bach's music lately, and it's been kind of fun. And I guess that's about it. It got a little hairy in here at around 80, and then at the very end of the last bar here, second last bar, with the fingering. This is the fourth beat of measure 79. So I marked in here, I'm hoping actually to do a video where I will talk about subject entries in the fugues of the Well-Tempered Clavier. But for this piece, we just saw that the order of entries, first we have the tenor, the alto, soprano, and bass. So T, A, S, B. Sorry, bass is down here. T, A, S, B. Now I wrote down here for us today, T, A, S, B. Tenor, alto, soprano, bass also occurs in Book 1, Fugue number 18, that's G sharp minor. Fugue number 23 in B major, this is also Book 1. And in Book 2, Fugue number 5 in D major. So for whatever it's worth, for the people who love data, there's something for you there. Also, I wrote in here from my Erwin Bodke book, page 131, how he says the unusual rhythmic pattern here almost reminds us of the chorus, Lasset uns denn nicht zerteilen. Zerteilen. Forgive my German pronunciation. Lasset uns denn nicht zerteilen, from the St. John Passion. And that was these repeated notes here. I put a little post on that, about that on the community tab as well, so you can check that out. But that is what I wanted to show you. So we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, and happy practicing to you. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon for more performances of Bach's music and practice tips. Take care. Bye-bye.